But I think the main things is at the end of the day, volleyball is volleyball. It's in the same 9x9 court, and the rules are the same. So we. Is that on the back of your shirt?
Yeah, it's on the back of the shirt.
You did. A little free shout out for you. And it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. You need to still execute to the best of your ability if you want a chance to win.
That's right, Brett Walsh. Welcome back, boys and girls. It is Monday night, March 25th, 2024, and this is the 81 Square Meters, the best volleyball coverage on the internet. This is the 9x9 episode 114. My name is Rob St. Clair, live from Chicago. That is Everett Delorme, live from Toronto. It is a big week. Hola, Everett. It is great to see you. It is great to be here, and I'm going to jump right into it. We know our 4 Champions League finalists. These 4 teams will all be meeting on May 5th in Antalya, Turkey, which we can certainly talk about. On the men's side, ITAS Trentino of Italy will take on Jastrzębski Węgiel of Poland, and on the women's side, an all-Italian battle between LegaVolley Monza and Imoco Conegliano. And we certainly can talk about how those teams that are playing for the Champions League finals, it may have influenced the location of the Champions League finals, but
Turkish teams.
No Turkish teams. No Turkish teams. We've got 3 Italian teams and a Polish team. And honestly, after the semifinal series that we had, which obviously we'll get into, these are the 4 most deserving teams in the world to be playing at this point.
100%, without a doubt. Like you can't claim that any of them kind of snuck in. You know, any of them had an easy path. They all had good opponents in the semifinals and were able to make it through. I mean, hell, we almost had 3 Turkish teams in there with the Ziraat Bank and Fenerbache and Vakifbank. Like it could have been good, but it wasn't to be. So, oh no, I said Vakifbank. Sorry, I meant Exarchibasha. But I mean, all pretty decisive, and like you said, definitely the best teams in there. For me, Agonu making her 5th straight Champions League final with her 4th different team.
Unbelievable.
Is absolutely astonishing. That's incredible. Trentino obviously is a big storyline there with Accarone leading them, no Spertoli, Conegliano going back. Like there's just so many good things. We're finally gonna have a new champion on the men's side.
Great point.
What semifinal do you want to start with first?
Oh, well, we already talked about Monza beating Fenerbahce in a golden set on last week's show, so we're not going to cover that. I say we start with the men. Let's start with JSW taking down Ziraat Bank. This was on the road. This was substantially more competitive than it was in leg 1. Thank goodness.
This was about as entertaining as 2 sets can get.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the stakes, obviously, after JSW winning in a convincing 3-dong last week at home, all they needed was 2 sets. They won the first 34-32. They won the second 27-25, and the series was over. And I honestly kind of felt bad for Ziraat Bank at that point because they played about as well as they could have. They got Matt Anderson back. Wouter Termat was brilliant. They just looked more organized. They looked like they belonged there a lot more. Home crowd was in it, but just late in those overtimes, it was JSW making the clutch plays, and they go back to the Champions League final, where obviously last year they came up short against their Polish rival in Zaksa, but they've got to be feeling pretty darn good about themselves right now. And then you can completely forget about what happened in sets 3 through 5. Just we won't even acknowledge it.
1 through 2 is all that matters. And
right,
when you look at some of these numbers, 9 points for Patry in that first set, like they were just so efficient across the board. They only had 1 unforced error.
A million serving errors, though. I mean,
13 serving errors for JW in the first set.
I know it went deep into overtime, but Jesus Christ, still.
Yeah, those serving errors 100% kept ZB in it. I mean, their offense was pretty good as well. They weren't running at the same clip. I mean, like if you look at some of the efficiency numbers for JW in the first set, like they were out of this world. Like Hubert was 5 for 6 in attacking. Patry was 8 for 16. Getting blocked 1. So the efficiency of JW's offense is really what kept them alive there, and what allowed them to weather the storm for what was like basically the best ZB had to throw at them. Like they didn't come unprepared. They didn't come lying down. they threw the best up against JW, and JW was up to the task.
Yep. I mean, Wouter Termot tried his best to put that team on his back. He went 8 for 12 with no errors in the first, which is insane. And he was automatic in the overtime. And set 2, he was pretty similar. I mean, well, no, he didn't get nearly as many balls in set 2. That was much more of both outside hitters and Camejo and Anderson. But I mean, Termot did all he could. Anderson coming back, he did all he could. He went 8 for 14 in the first 2 sets. JSW was just better. They were just better. And kind of for the first time, I mean, I said either last week or the week before that for some reason, like as good as JSW has been all year, they're the number 1 team in Poland, which we have recently decided on the show is the best league in the world. They're going to a Champions League.
I'm even more convinced by that, Rob.
Me
the more
too.
I think about it, I'm more convinced about it. Sorry, Italy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. But for some reason, I still don't find myself being convinced by JSW until the way that they won those 2 overtimes. Like until the clutchness that they showed and the ability to make the play when the play needs to be made. There's not even anything statistical I can point to. That team just kind of has it. And I think that is absolutely spearheaded by the sheer willpower of a guy like Tomáš Fornal. He is an MVP caliber player. He is a player that can take over a game, and he does it in literally every possible phase. Serve, block, attack, reception, he's very good. Defense, I think he's outstanding. And he just really is kind of the perfect sort of mascot of that team, or like the guy as far as typifying their play style. JSW really follows Fornal's lead, and you can win a Champions League with a guy like that.
For sure. And for me, one of the things that in watching JW, especially in this match, Fornal is fantastic, but to me, it's all the leadership from Benjamin Tognuti.
Agreed.
And in the setter's position, like we've seen how bad it goes for them when he's not on the court. And his ability to lead that offense and to go with the flow of that offense, he doesn't try to set as much of a system as much as he goes with the hot hand. And he understands the flow of his team, and just really watching him how he manages Fornal too. And another guy like Hubert and Fornal to me are both similar in their mentality. And maybe I view them as slightly immature. But both of them have flourished this season. And like Hubert, like we've talked about, Hubert is statistically the best middle in the world this year. Hands down, like it's not even close. Robert Landy, Lozaire, David Smith, it doesn't matter. Hubert is head and shoulders above all of them this year. And just you watch this team, like Paki is another guy. Tognuti has been a magician this season. And I think this, especially in this 2 sets, it was on full display.
Yeah, and that's obviously going to be, I mean, if we take a really early look at the matchup in the final against Trentino, that's, again, Riccardo Spertoli is a massive question mark. Trentino did post a video today of Spertoli slapping a couple balls around, so that was nice to see. But depending on what happens there, Tognuti is a big positional domination by JSW, and it's probably the only one, except like maybe Huber, but I really like what Trentino's got in the middle as well. Yeah. And as good as Fornal is, nobody on the planet is better than Micheletto right now. So Tognuti is going to continue to be probably their most important player. And I'm just fascinated to see how he returns to a Champions League final. He's been in this situation several times. He won one with Zaxa 2021. He lost with JSW last year. He's got a couple new pieces around him. I really can't wait to see what happens. But JSW is deserving. They embarrassed a weakened ZB team last week, or I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, and they were just better on the road in a hostile environment. And I'm curious to see how they can fare against no matter what version of Trentino we see.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's chat. Do you want to chat about the Trentino game,
Absolutely.
The Trentino versus Lube? Because this one was 3 good sets.
Yep.
Essentially, Lube kept it interesting by winning that second, and you thought that maybe they were going to be able to pull it out, but ultimately Trentino, and more notably Micheletto, are just so good.
What did I say a couple weeks ago when Spertoli went down? It was going to be the true and ultimate test of just how crazy good is Alessandro Micheletto right now with a backup setter? And the answer is crazy good. 13 for 19 in 3 sets with only 2 errors and a block for 14 total points and 67% positive reception. Like, it's just crazy how he has been able to drag Trentino even in the face of adversity of losing their starting setter. I can't get over it every time I watch them. It's just amazing to watch.
We may have seen like the torch passed of like the moniker of best player in the world from Leon to Micheletto this year. I don't know if I'm like fully ready to like actually call that and go out there and be like put my stamp of approval on that, but it's starting to look that way. I think it's a lot closer than it was in the past, how we viewed Leon like head and shoulders above everyone else, especially like in the later half of the 2010s. But what Micheletto is doing right now, we've never really seen Leon being able to do that, right? Because his success came with so much quality around him. But if right now, like Micheletto, how many times has he dragged this Trentino team to a final, right? This is their 3rd Champions League final in 4 years.
Yeah, in the last 4 years, which is remarkable.
In the era of Micheletto, right? So you're looking at, he is one of the best young players in this game who now is gone to 3 Champions League finals, is a European champion and a world champion. And now he's doing it and doing this with the team where he has the backup setter, right? And on top of that, their number 1 setter isn't even considered the best setter in Italy. He's the backup who never gets any playing time on the national team, right? So like Micheletto for he's essentially doing it with leftovers, right? Like Micheletto and this Trentino team, obviously like that's a stretch. That's a stretch.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you from calling them leftovers unless you're referring to Kamil Rykliski, who I might agree with.
That's like I was actually pandering to you exactly.
He did go 6 for 17 with 6 errors, but I mean, I don't think Micheletto is complete without his vice president or his running mate of sorts,
True.
Which is Daniele Lavia, and the two of them being paired together in every phase of like life, really, for the past 3 seasons, club and national team, has been just it's incredible to watch the chemistry of the two of them and the way they complement each other's games. And Lavia here in this game, 10 for 16, no errors, an ace and a block, and just terrific reception numbers. I mean, it's easy to forget about just how good Lavia is. He's easily a top 10 outside hitter in the world because what Micheletto is doing next to him is just so otherworldly. So this Trentino team is absolutely built to win a Champions League. I think that I would give them an advantage at every position group except setter right now, and that's just depending on Spertoli. And then somebody in the chat is pointing out how good Jakub Popivchak is for JSW, and I've been calling for him to be the Polish national team starting libero for like 3 years now. So I certainly agree there. But Gabriele Lorenzano, I mean, is probably having a better season this year than Fabio Bolasso is.
Oh, 100%. Bolasso has not been having a good season.
Nah, not so much.
Like he hasn't been as impressive for me. I mean, even we'll talk about it a little bit more. Like Zaitsev was a better passer and a better digger for Lube in their win over Monza this weekend than Bolasso was. And that's kind of leads into my next point. Sorry to jump into some SuperLega there.
No,
but
please.
Why didn't we see a Zaitsev into this match? Right, like we talked about it last week, especially in their match against Monza. They won Game 3 of that series with Zaitsev on. They won Game 4 in that series with Zaitsev on. Why wasn't there any thought of going to Zaitsev in this match? Because it does seem to be like their best lineup is when Zaitsev is basically a utility player on the right side, and they just do so much fun stuff. Like they run him out of 6 the back row, he passes. They run Nikolov on the C ball. Like they do all that fun stuff. But they went to a more traditional lineup here for the Champions League with Jans and Nikolov and Lagumja on the right side, and it wasn't as effective.
That was kind of the difference.
Maybe you put something else in there.
Yeah, that was kind of the difference between this year's Lube team and last year's Lube team, because last year, like Lube was hoping that Ivan Zaitsev was going to be their opposite all season, and then they
were
ended
hoping
up
that Gabby Garcia was going to be their opposite.
Yeah, that obviously didn't really go super well. Also constrained by the foreigner limit. So Zaitsev ended up being the guy, and they got creative with where they put Nikolov. But then this year they brought in a like legitimate number one world class opposite, Nadas Legumja, who is gonna be the guy, or is supposed to be the guy in every match. And just the fact of the matter is, the last few matches he has not been good enough. Aris Lagumja has not been good enough the last few matches with the season on the line in Champions League. I wouldn't say he had a very good series against Trentino, and he hasn't seen the court that much in the Monza series either, because I wouldn't say he was super good in the first two matches in that series. So it's a different problem that Lube is having now versus what they had last year, where they like opposite was just kind of a question mark the whole season. This team was built to have opposite be the only thing that wasn't a question mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't necessarily say that like it's been a lost cause with Legumja. I think he's been super solid all year, but I don't know, like at this stage, he hasn't been a game changer for them. And that's what they need him to be. Right. And it just hasn't really worked out. So too bad for Lube. Ultimately, technically, Lube is on a 3-game win streak, though, because they ultimately did win this game. Just putting that out there. Yeah.
Nobody cares about any of that. Yeah, that third set was a little bit of a depressing ending, because I mean, Legumja in the third hit negative. He went 2 for 8 with 3 errors, and we saw 2 of maybe the worst service errors in volleyball history to give Trentino points 24 and 25. That serve by Bartolomé Chinese that like pushed Trentino into the super final was pitiful.
Yeah,
it was so bad.
It was just like the most.
It was
like most pathetic little like
to
like end of the game.
You know what it was?
That
serve was flaccid. That serve was as flaccid as it gets.
Flaccid.
But yeah, Trentino is better. Trentino is better than Lube. I expected Trentino to be better than Lube, even with Aquarone's setting, and I do have to give this Aquarone guy credit. He has stepped up in a big pressure situation. His only job was to not lose Trentino a series, or like don't be so much worse than Spertoli. Yeah, just keep their level high enough. Keep Trentino's identity in general and keep their floor high, and he's done that. Even like he's a non-factor blocking. Blangini knew that. He was telling DeCecco to set over the top of him as much as they could, and he actually did an okay job of slowing people down, and he's a pretty good defender. So he's doing his job out there, and I give him credit.
He's a classic, like, let's just throw a random Italian in who's going to be good, who's going to be skilled, right? Like, it's classic Italian volleyball. So at least they still got that going.
Helps that he happens to be bald with a beard, just like
exactly. Like he's
pluck
just
him off
like
the street.
They just did copy paste up there in Trentino. All right, Rob, let's jump over to the women's side real quick. To be honest, not much to talk about here. This one was pure domination from Conigliano. Realistically, Fenerbahce needed a big performance from one of their left sides, and Alexa was bad.
She was horrendous.
She was horrendous. Her passing was real bad.
Awful.
And offensively, her and Hande Baladine were about the same, rocking around the 20% mark, which is not what you need to be if you want to win a Champions League semifinal. Of course, Boskovic was pretty good. She dropped 26. But it really
she was awesome on like 42% ish efficiency. Yeah, she was brilliant.
24 for 47. But then opposite, you had Isabel Hawk, who went 25 for 44 with 3 blocks and an ace for 29 points. And then you still had Plummer and Kelsey Robinson-Cook, who were both in double digits with 12 and 11 respectively. So this one was just a complete and utter domination by Santarelli. He just obviously this team is very good, but he leads that boat. Like, he is on the front lines. He is the captain up there steering that wheel, and everyone else just falls in line.
Yeah, now Berkay in the chat is complaining about Tijana Boskovic and clutch moments and saying that she's been bad at serving. There were no clutch moments in this game, Berkay. Those didn't exist. Look at those score lines: 17, 15, and 16 in the sets that Fenerbahce lost. No clutch moments existed. They won that one in overtime. And Tijana Boskovic is the only player who I honestly will say I kind of feel bad for her. Yeah, I kind of feel bad for her.
It's been a number of years that they've been unable to put a team around her, right?
Yeah.
And it's been a number of years now where this team has fallen apart in the big moments. And
The
you know,
team has fallen apart in the big moments. I
absolutely,
would not say that Boskovic herself has done that. I wouldn't even say that she has like led the charge in the falling apart in the big moments. This is how simplistic can volleyball be sometimes. Serving and serve reception dominated this series, and it's Adzhebashe's complete and embarrassing inability to pass the freaking volleyball. They had no chance. No matter, there was nothing that Tijana Boskovic could do. She's one of the best 4 players in the world that can sometimes single-handedly win you a tournament. But when you pass the ball that badly, and because of that horrible reception, all of the other potential point scorers around her were so invisible that there is just nothing even a player of Boskovic's caliber could do. There's just nothing she could do.
No, and I mean, like Baladine was pretty good. Like she had 8 points in the third set, the set that they won, and that was really the difference. But then she was quiet the rest of the time. Like in the fourth, she was 1 for 5, and she got blocked twice. And to me, it really comes down to, in the third set, they were going after Voronkova. They had 12 targets and serve receive on Voronkova in the third set, only 7 for Baladine. So as soon as that pressure went off of her, right? And then that's been the plague for Adzhebashe all year. It doesn't matter if it's Voronkova, Gray, or Baladine. Whoever is getting the pressure of that serve receive, and they like teams now know you break their P1 and it's over.
Game over.
And that's and that's what they do systematically. They put all of the pressure on that P1 and it's broken down. To me, I've said this before. I think Simji, their libero, needs to start like putting like needs to take more space on that team. The games that they have been very good this year have been games that she has been confident in, has been good, and starts taking some space. Like I know, like teams are going to go away from her because she's pretty solid, but just be a little bit more imposing. And that would allow to open things up. But yeah, the P1 disasters for Adzhebashe all year were terrible. Like the few times that one of the 3 were good, it worked out, but it wasn't always the case.
Yeah. Also, Adzhebashe was weirdly quite bad in the middle. I mean, Sinead Jack being back definitely helped them sort of emotionally, but she went 2 for 12 on offense and hit a ball out of bounds. Like that was embarrassing. And Jovana Stevanovic in 2 entire sets, 0 points. 0 points for a middle blocker in 2 entire sets. And then Beza Araja, who started the game, 1 point in 2 entire sets. Just not impactful enough. And obviously some of that comes back to the reception, but also kind of like we were talking Fenerbache against Malonza in that series, not being prepared to be in the right places in the blocking game. I would say the same thing for Adzhebashe against Conegliano, and that is it's not surprising how much better Daniele Santarelli is as a coach compared to Farhad Akbash. Like that's certainly not breaking news. And the Conegliano Mills are out here putting in work. I mean, Sarah Farr with 9, Robin de Cruyff with 9 also, who we hear is going to retire at the end of the season, which is a huge bummer. And then another player I wanted to give a shout out to is their backup libero, Ana Bardaro. She wears 20. She comes in off the bench and float serves and plays position 5 defense, and she's dug a bunch of balls. I think she's in a nice little lane right now, sitting behind Monica De Gennaro, coming in and being a bit of a defensive X factor. So shouts to her.
I think ultimately, Rob, as I've been watching more and more Sultanlar Ligi teams and like just Sultanlar Ligi in general, and Turkish volleyball, there's a certain lack of detail that some of these teams and players have, and a certain
like high level X's and O's ability, or like volleyball IQ.
It's just high level ability, IQ, and to me there's a certain amount of polish. Like the skill level isn't quite there overall, compared when you look at the Italians, for example, who are very polished and have a really high skill level. And that to me is where, like, whereas when we compare the Plus Liga to the Superlega on the men's side, you really see that polish and IQ throughout the entire Plus Liga, but it really falls short. Like even on the top teams, even on those top 4 teams in Sultanlar Ligi, which let's be honest, are all fantastic. Like it's such a tight race between the 4 of them, but there's just a certain lack of detail within the Turkish game that I hope we can see evolve, because once they get to that point, they're going to be scary. Like they are definitely they are definitely the next ones up. And once they add that next level, things are going to be scary for you.
So the super finals are set: Trentino versus JSW on the men's side, Malonza versus Conegliano on the women's side. The rumors about the choice of location for this Champions League super final were swirling for a while. Everybody thought it was going to be in Turkey somewhere. Everybody also thought that if one of the Turkish teams had made it to the final, it would have been in either Istanbul or Ankara. And then, very shortly after, less than a day after the semifinals were over, the CEV comes out and announces it's in Antalya, which is still a perfectly good event host. I mean, I think they had Club World Championship either this year or last year. They're no strangers to hosting major events, but the draw for the greater Europe and for all Turkish volleyball fans is going to be substantially less, not being in one of the two main cities that currently house most of its volleyball culture. So I'm curious to see how the attendance numbers are and how the organization is, and how does the Turkish fan base, are they going to care about either of these two matches?
Yeah, I'm very, very wondering that as well, because if it was the case, even if one Turkish team was in it, it would have been everyone
completely different story.
Would have been a massive story, and they would have the game would have been in Istanbul for sure. Oh, excuse me.
I agree,
but yeah, I don't know if Turkey cares about volleyball enough. I don't know if they care about volleyball enough on a general level to go see 4 non-Turkish teams play. Furthermore, that 3 of them beat Turkish teams there, and we know how passionate Turkish fans are, let's say. But also too, it's not exactly in a central location like in Italy, right? When you have it in a Venice or a Trento or Milano or something like that, it's easily accessible to the biggest area of volleyball fans in the world, in Europe, right? And they can just take the train in, where it's not nearly as accessible in Antalya as opposed to even Istanbul, right? So that's going to be very, very interesting. Where was it last year?
It was in Italy, I think, but there were no Italian women's teams in the final. It was Fenerbache versus Vakifbank, so people were still talking about that. Now the roles are reversed, at least as far as the women's side goes. And then last year it was all Polish on the men's side. So for 2 years in a row, the country that has hosted the super finals is not going to have a team in the mix. And I mean, technically speaking, Antalya, the city, isn't even in Europe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in Asia.
it's the Asia side. That's what I'm saying. It's not nearly as accessible.
Not at all.
As past years, right? So yeah, there's a lot of that. Not to mention that, and this is maybe my own thing in my own head, that I think that both Polish and Turkish fans travel very well, because they're both very passionate and very into it. Whereas I don't think that the numbers of Italian fans are necessarily going to travel as well. I think JW's fans are going to travel exceptionally well to Turkey, but other than that, I think it'll be lesser from the other teams.
Well, we'll see. We've got 6 weeks to discuss the super finals and look forward to it. It's 6 weeks from yesterday, Sunday, May 5th. That's completely insane that we make everybody wait that long. I understand that everyone wants it to be after all the domestic playoffs are over, but 6 weeks after the semifinals, I think is a little bit ridiculous. Something that I've never really liked.
Yeah, it's weird, but obviously that's just how they have to work it out within the calendar of everything.
And then, if I remember correctly, VNL starts literally a week later.
Yeah, pretty much. And Turkey is hosting right away. They've got men's week 1, game 1 against Canada.
Okay,
it's be really good. Okay. Real quick, if you're watching this and if you're from Toronto, would there be any interest in all meeting up at a bar and watching the super finals together?
You should do that. You should pull Dan Manili out of retirement to come with you and do that.
Yeah, right. This dude doesn't answer. I'll send him a message. He'll answer me 3 weeks later, and I'll immediately answer. So it's I see it, and it's oh, Dan Manili messages me, and I'll be throw everything down, answer him immediately, then radio silence.
Yeah.
Hey, man, Kelsey and I are getting married. Oh, that's awesome. Congrats, dude. When is it? Nothing. So
Dan, we miss you. I'll definitely be putting some Chicago people together here to watch that game. It's also I'm pretty sure it's the morning after the NCAA men's finals, so it'll be a big weekend of volleyball around here, which I'm excited about.
Okay.
If I remember, I'm pretty sure NCAA men's finals are Saturday, May 4th. So that could be pretty fun. Could be a good weekend of ball. All right. In other CEV news, congratulations to Chieri. Chieri won the CEV Cup. They beat Neuchâtel easily. And we all expected this. Good for them. They've won 2 European trophies in a row. They won the Challenge Cup last year. They won the CEV Cup this year. Good for them. I have nothing else to say.
Chieri could potentially, this is a stretch, but they are potentially in a position to get a Champions League spot for next year, right? They have that first round matchup against They have that first round matchup against Navarra, which is the only intriguing matchup in the LegaVolley Super.
Yes, it is.
Feminile playoffs in the first round. We'll talk about that in a little bit. That's a winnable series for them. It's not out of this question to maybe go above and beyond and win a third place match and just sneak in, just get in there. So, but yeah, good on Chieri. I really like watching that team. As I said, I'm stoked to watch their first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I like them too. Yep. All right. So, despite it being a pretty darn disappointing week for all 3 of the best teams in Turkey, or at least the best 2, we did have a pretty good show in Turkey over the weekend. We had the Turkish Cup on the women's side, and congratulations to Fenerbahce for beating Eczacıbaşı 3-1 in the final to win the Turkish Cup. I believe Melissa Vargas, unsurprisingly, was named the MVP. This was a pretty nice show. I watched a good bit of this match. Good production, obviously. Fantastic crowd in Ankara, even though both these teams are from Istanbul. But yeah, Fenerbahce wins. I think that they are the number 1 seed going into the Sultanlar Ligi playoffs. We already know that. They have a great chance to win there as well. I was looking at some stats from the final and was just generally impressed by Vargas, obviously on 19 points, Fedorovtseva 18. Let's see, Ada Erdem didn't play, which was a bit of a bummer. But and other than Boskovic 18, you got a little bit of a better Hande Baladin game than you got against Corneliana. She had 11, which was nice, but nobody else in double figures for Eczacıbaşı in 4 sets. And other than that one set that they took, this was clearly Fenerbahce domination.
Yeah, Baladin had 11, but still her efficiency was way low with 7 errors overall. To be honest, the only thing that I want to talk about in this Turkish Cup here is, talking about Alexa Gray, who's maybe underperformed in Turkey this year. I think Kira Van Rijk had a phenomenal year in the semifinal. She dropped 27 for THY. She went 24 for 46, hit a 52% with 2 blocks, and an ace. So I'd love to see that, no one else. One other player had 10 points. No one else on that THY team. They're just not nearly as strong as they've been in years past. So yeah, I am Rob. People have talked about it, how Vargas is still injured, and yet she's still playing this many matches. It's worrisome to me.
It's concerning.
It is very concerning, and it's concerning on a few levels. And I think this might be the great undoing of Averini. We've talked about it before, because if you destroy Vargas so that she's not good enough for the Olympics this summer, all of Turkey hates you, right? And not only that, you alienated the best player on your Polish national team to do that as well.
That you coach.
But you coach.
Well, I'm not blaming Lavarini for any of this. This is the federation. If Melissa Vargas is not healthy, and if she is legitimately at risk of hurting herself or hurting her chances of producing this summer in the Olympic Games, it is nobody's fault but the federation.
Is it the federation or is it Fenerbahce? Because in my mind, Fenerbahce is a much bigger entity with much more power in the greater landscape of Turkish sports than the Turkish Volleyball Federation. Fenerbahce is a world.
Yes, Fenerbahce's club is a big deal. But somebody, Berkay or somebody Turkish in the chat, let us know what you think about this, because I think that the federation should have absolutely, and we said it right when Vargas came back from China, step in and prevent her from playing the rest of the club season. There's no long-term benefit for Turkish volleyball if she ruins her shoulder before an Olympic Games where she is the key to your medal chances. So we got to keep an eye on that. And I want to get some feedback from people in the chat.
I do like what Emma has to say in the chat is that Lavrini is just being smart. Stesiak is going to be healthy and Vargas is going to be injured before the Olympics. Maybe that's exactly like what Lavrini is just plotting in the background with Stesiak, being like, here's the deal. I'm going to rest you and then I'm going to ride you like Seabiscuit through the entire summer.
Who knows? The other semifinal was actually a very good one. It was Eczacıbaşı beating Vakifbank in 5. It's kind of weird to live in a universe where like Vakifbank is like clearly the 3rd best team in Turkey. Yeah, and not any higher than that. But I mean that's just the facts at this point. Jordan Thompson had a pretty good game, which was nice to see. 24-57 and relatively low error rate. Gabi got to 20 for the first time in a little while, at least from what I've seen. Plus excellent reception numbers as usual. Zara Gunesh had 13, which was nice to see. So maybe some of these key Vakifbank players are coming around a little bit before the playoffs, but they couldn't stop a 40 burger from Tijana Boskovic. 39 for 73 attempts.
Yeah.
Plus an ace to get to 40. That's wild.
And once again, you see a good, a time when Eczacıbaşı wins. Both of their left sides are in double digits. Hande Baladin dropped 19, good for her. 15 for 36, hitting 42%. She had 4 blocks and no aces, but still, Voronkova also had 12 points. She was 11 for 20 with no errors. It's like a 55% efficiency. So once once they get that help, it's a much different story for Eczacıbaşı, but it's so few and far between.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of a bummer for either of those teams or Eczacıbaşı in this case. They had to work that hard to get to the final, only just to get kind of stomped by Fenerbahce once they got there. And I think. Well, I want to skip forward to this because I thought that points was the main tiebreaker in the Sultanlar Ligi, but apparently, according to Berkay, it might be wins. So maybe the first seed is not locked up yet. That's it's interesting because everybody in the league has played all their 26 games except for the top 3 and Nilüfer. So coming up this Wednesday, we have the last 2 matches of the Sultanlar Ligi regular season. You get Eczacıbaşı versus Fenerbahce, which is sick, and Vakifbank versus Nilüfer. But I assumed that because Fener is up by 4 points that they had the 1 seed locked up. So okay, Berkay says apparently it's win. So that actually does make things a lot more interesting on Wednesday. Eczacıbaşı plays Fenerbahce for the 1 seed straight up. So that's actually cool. That match is going to matter a lot more than I initially thought that it would.
What day is that game?
Wednesday, it looks like.
Ooh, Wednesday's a spicy day.
Wednesday's a good day.
Wednesday's going to be a good day to sit my ass on the couch and watch some volleyball. It might be like a live watch along day. Maybe we'll see.
So and then Vakifbank plays Nilüfer, but and I guess they could jump up to 2nd. Yeah, the best they could do is 2nd. Okay, well, yeah. I thought...
but Vargas won't be playing on Wednesday because it's a postponed game.
Right, yeah, because
she wasn't on the roster. Interesting.
So, yeah, they're going to have to do it with Stesiak, and we'll see how that goes. I still think that Stesiak is plenty good enough to help Fenerbahce win this match and be the best team in the league. I mean, she did it for the first 2/3 of the year, so... But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. In watching Melissa Vargas the last couple games since she's come back, she hasn't physically looked abnormal to me. She's looked just as explosive and her arm looks good and she looks like she's moving well. And like, to me, just like watching her move around, watching her play, everything looks fine. So,
I wouldn't necessarily say to me, it looks like she's rolling at like a cautious 75%. There's the flashes of it, yeah, but it just seems like she's maybe not fully there. Well, we haven't we've seen that full domination that we fully saw from her like last year, where she was completely taking over games.
Oh yeah, I mean she was by far the best player in the world this time last year, and then her shoulder fell apart a little bit after the summer.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. All right. Enough about Turkey, right? Anything else on the women's side there? You want to?
No, nothing about the women's side in Turkey.
All right, let's hit the
I'm-
Scudetto playoffs, eh?
Oh, there's a lot to talk about here. Two big matches. I want to jump right into Monza and Lube. Now, I didn't get to watch this match, Rob, and I thought it was way worse given how many times Ronnie friggin' Cuban Spike tagged me on Discord to talk about. Like I didn't even need to see the score, but I was just getting tagged in Discord messages while I was coaching, and I was like, "Okay, obviously Monza's losing," and I thought it was going to be a terrible game. I pulled up the stats and I started looking at the stats of this game and I was like, whoa. So I spent the afternoon watching it over on Volleymetrics, and this is where this is two teams maximizing themselves. I think this series right here is why I hate that the Polish playoffs are just going to be a 2-2 and we're not going to have a best of 3 or 5, because when you look at the adjustments that either team is making, and like this match, the 5-setter had a combined 8 errors in it, which is exceptional from both teams. There was a big issue, and like Rob, we talked about it a little bit earlier. We were texting about it, and you thought it was a little bit sloppy. I wouldn't necessarily. I would disagree a little bit. Monza had made 22 service errors in the match. They averaged just over 4 errors per set, which to me isn't terrible. But on the other side of things, you had Lube, who was real strong serving. And it's obvious to me that Lube has 2 servers that they give the absolute green light to, and that's Yantin and Nikolov. They're allowed to just go off. And everyone else, other than that, like those guys made errors. No one else made errors. Everyone else just had 1 error. Checo randomly was able to pull out 2 service aces on Mar too, that were like both just like random. Like, where did he get those things? But to me, like when you look at the difference in this team, when you have Zaitsev playing on the right side in the way that he's so efficient, but he's completely useless out of system.
Useless.
Right? Useless out of system. That's why you like I really think that the difference in this game, Rob, was the blocking for Lube. And even though the numbers say that Monza outblocked Lube 10-4, you're seeing that like on the volumetric stats, you actually have block touches. Their positive block touches are way more. And it leads to the fact that they're converting at twice the efficiency in transition than Monza is. They're both hitting around the same clip in first ball side out, but the transition for numbers for Lube are almost double that of Monza, and ultimately that's why they won this match.
Yep, that's an excellent takeaway. Lube was substantially better in transition, even though like on the eye test, I'm not convinced that they were the better team just watching this game, but they were way better in transition, and that was just the way that they chose to run their roster with no Adis Lagumja, with Ivan Zaitsev lining up at opposite. But like you said, him being useless out of system, they slid both Alex Nikolov and Marlon Yant, depending on who was in the backcourt, over to hit right side balls out of system. It was a lot more like what we saw last year as Lube pulled kind of that miracle run all the way to the 5th match in the final and losing to Trentino. Like, this is basically what we saw. And it enables them to just be more free-flowing and flexible in transition, to just give somebody a swing somewhere. And I give both Yant and Nikolov tremendous credit for being adaptable enough to move around and be willing to hit balls in weird spots. And both of them were amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Both of them had 24. Nikolov 21 for 41. Yant 22 for 42. Like, Nikolov was the best server on either team by far, actually. Mm-hmm. Like, look at the serving attempt.
His 1-to-1 serve, his ability to hit that high, you see it really well from that baseline angle, is so deadly. As far as arm talent goes, he might be the best I've ever seen.
Special. Like, he's really special.
He's really, really special. But it's really fun to see the games that they're playing because of Zaitsev. Like, once again, I said that he's like useless out of system. In system, he was pretty good. Like, what was he, like 10 for 15?
10 for 15, and he passed nails.
He passed nails. He also led them in digs too. He made 11 digs in this match, which led the match and is absolutely massive.
Who would have thought if you asked either of us 10 years ago, is Ivan Zaitsev going to be playing secondary, like primary defensive left side at age like 35 or whatever?
He's technically lining up on the right side, but
right. But
and
like
it's
so
back
fascinating.
passing and prioritizing defense, and it's crazy. Because of that, you're seeing a lot of, like, obviously you have the fire up, especially when Zaitsev's in the front row with Mar and Kachopa, but they're also in certain rotations. They're also switching Schwartz and DiMartino around and having Schwartz block in the middle when Zaitsev's in the front row and Chinanyeze is in front of him, because
Yeah,
like,
that was
he was
really
9. He was
too.
he was 9. Chinanyeze was 9 for 10. And even though when you look at the efficiency numbers on either of these teams, like the hitting percentage for Monza was way higher, 63% compared to 58% for Lube. I think Tcheko outset Kachopa in this
Substantially.
game. Like the way he opens up the offense, and like I said, the 10 blocks for Monza are all in out of system situations, because as soon as it goes out of system for Lube, you know it's going to Yan and Nikolov. You know it's going high to the outside, or you know it's going to the pipe. So majority of the time they have two sets of hands, and most of the time they have three. But the rest of the time, like when they're in system, it's usually a one-on-one for them, where that's not happening for Monza. So when I look at game number 5, for Monza to go in to Lube, at Lube in their home, and potentially stop the momentum they have right now is a lot to ask, right? Like one of the big things that we haven't talked about in this match, Rob, is Ran Takahashi, who is pretty good but just kind of quiet. He passed superb, but a little quiet offensively in this one.
He went 13 for 25. I mean, that's almost 50% efficiency. Like there's not that much more that you can ask from a guy of his play style. Just right now, it's going to take some kind of adjustment from Monza to respond to the massive, like, series changing adjustment that Lube has made, taking out one of the best opposites in the world in Adas Legumja to play this weird, confusing, untraditional, but obviously completely functional style, with Zaitsev on the right and passing a lot of balls, and Nikolov and Yant hitting all over the place. Like, it's going to take an adjustment from Monza. They're going to need to get in the film room in a big way and understand how to stop that team, and understand how to, and I think this comes down to Kachopa for sure, how to be more efficient in transition. There were just not very many good set locations and not very many good set choices made in transition. That guys other than Stephen Marr, who played one of the best matches I've ever seen him play with 23 points. Other than that, Monza out of system wasn't making very good decisions as a team, and I think that Lube was. So that this comes down to a coaching system, X's and O's, volleyball IQ matchup adjustment into match number 5, and for like nerds like ourselves, like I couldn't ask for anything more. It's so fascinating, and it seems to be a completely like level series momentum wise too, because even these last 2 games that Monza has lost, I think both of them have been like 15-13 in the 5th. Like they've both been about as close as possible. We talked about game 3, match 3, Lube going 11 for 11 on offense in the 5th set, and like Monza, it will be another interesting coaching job for Massimo Akeli. How do you make this team figure out that they still belong there? They still have a chance to win this series. They're still playing well enough to advance despite losing the last 2. It's just really fascinating. One thing that can't happen though is Arthur Schwartz getting solo blocked by Luciano Tcheko in a 5th set. That can't happen anymore.
And that was the one blemish. That was the one error that they had in all sets 4 and 5. Right? They hit 79% efficiency as a team in that 4th set. They went 15 for 19 as a team with 3 blocks, and like that's like. But that's the reality, is that's probably what they're going to have to do for multiple sets, not just one, if they're going to want to beat Lube at home. They need to find a way to neutralize one of Yant or Nikolov.
Correct.
Right? Yep. Because ultimately, like, even though their serving numbers were bad, right? For sure, but they're putting on way more pressure. Like the passing for Lube was points lower.
Yeah, they're about 20% worse. It was noticeably different.
Points lower in this one. So Monza's going to need to keep up that serving pressure, but they're also going to need to figure out a way to slow down Yant and Nikolov offensively. because they get more blocks, but they get less block touches and they get less digs, and they're converting less of those digs into offense. So it's all in that transition side for Monza, which is funny because at the beginning of the season, I would have dubbed them to be one of the best transition teams in the league.
Yeah, that's we need to get you watching volumetrics for every match. I love these super high level breakdowns. Yeah, this I can't wait for this game 5. It's a Wednesday afternoon North American time. Then somebody's going to be really, really disappointed about the way this series ends, because honestly, both of them deserve to advance with the level of volleyball that they've played basically the whole series, but that's not how it's going to work. And I will give the Lube crowd some credit as well, at least in that Champions League match that they hosted against Trentino. That crowd was more alive than I've seen it all year. So that was good to see. And they're going to need that sort of thing again on Wednesday against Monza.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that game is going 5 on Wednesday afternoon. This series is also going 5 on Wednesday afternoon. And if you are Piacenza, you need to be kicking yourself, because you were on the road with a 2-1 lead in the series. You went up 2-0 and got reverse swept by Milano to keep their playoff hopes alive. This was just as much of a banger as the first match was.
This was a fantastic match all around. And for me, like, my first thought goes to Farah Riegers, because
he was awesome.
He is really the truth. And I'm real glad that the if the Olympic qualifying tournament was this upcoming summer, after Riegers had played this season Milano, Belgium doesn't lose to Bulgaria.
Nope, no way.
They don't. I don't even think they lose to Poland in that one game in the Olympic qualifying tournament. Farah Riegers is the real deal, and he's really coming up to be one of the elite right sides that we have in this league, and he just does it with
I wouldn't say that yet. The consistency isn't there, but he's only like 20.
Exactly, he's coming into it.
Right. So I absolutely think he's going to get there. He has every tool that you could possibly need as an opposite at this high of a level. He's getting big time experience, putting a team on his back in a huge game, 22 points. And the thing I was most impressed by, 6 blocks. His blocking positioning, his blocking fundamentals, I thought were outstanding. And that's something that for a young opposite usually takes a long time to develop. So blocking that many balls in a playoff game was a super good sign. Also, big time credit to Osniel Margarejo coming off the bench from Matej Kaziski, who has not been very good. And going 8 for 14 with 2 blocks and 2 aces, 12 points, and like basically only 2 sets of real action. And I think ended up getting the MVP of the match because of how much of a game changer he was. So good for him. And then obviously just the leadership and the setting of the example by Yuki Ishikawa, down 2-0, not allowing his team to go away. I thought he hit the ball out of the pipe amazingly well in this game. He was okay from the left side, but he was straight up unstoppable out of the back row. And I love the way that Pora was giving it to him.
For me, ultimately, the big difference in this match was the serving.
Oh, yeah.
Every single player, every single starter on the roster had an ace. Pora was the only one. Like, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They had like 6. They had 7 guys get aces in this.
That's amazing.
6 had at least 2. Marco Calves. Who's that? Is that Vitelli?
That's Vitelli. Yeah,
that's Vitelli. That's
translated for you.
Yeah, it always changes. He had 3. So like, once again, 22 errors in this one, same amount as Monza in the last game, but 14 aces. And you compare it to Piacenza, 7 aces on 23 errors. Robert Landy, 6 errors alone in this one. Not his best game overall, going only 7 for 14 in the middle, with 3 errors overall. But Milano, they bullied them from the baseline, and then they were able to play little ball way better.
And just going up 2-0 and allowing a team back into it like that. I mean, really every set was dramatic until the fifth. The fifth was not close at all. It was 15-6. that's rather embarrassing. But I mean, late in overtime, I can't remember if it was the first or the second, but Matej Kaziski hit a ball out of bounds to give the set to Piacenza. I think they transitioned a ball in the second set to get it done, and then just to not capitalize on that is really not a good look, in my opinion. I think I can't remember if we talked about it on last week's show, but Piacenza re-signed Andrea Anastasi to coach them for another year, and I was just stunned by that. Now, however, then somebody made the point in the Discord, and they were correct. This is the same team that employed Lorenzo Bernardi for as long as they did and allowed him to once again find excuses to keep Aaron Russell on the bench, which I'll never forgive him for. So this is not the best run organization in all of volleyball, to say the least, but this will be an interesting test for Piacenza going home in match number 5, because they choked this match away. It's a fact. I mean, they choked this match away. They were up 2-0. They had chances in sets 3 and 4. Actually, they were up 21-18. No, sorry, it was Milano who was up 21-18 in the 4th.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
Piacenza was right in there in the 3rd, and had chances in that at least to send it to overtime, or they just didn't. They didn't capitalize. They didn't look like a team that had it mentally to go out and win a championship.
Yeah, no. Well, they get so mopey. They just get so mopey and whiny. And they just get why? Like, why are they fighting back? Like, why aren't they just giving to us? Like, we spend more. Like, why? Like, it's just why? Like, they just get so whiny. And like all of them, that. and then Simone just starts getting frustrated. Like it's just, and I mean, the king whiner of them all really wasn't in this one. He was outstanding. We need to talk about Romano in this one, dropping 29 points, 25 for 40, which is outstanding. But it's like, it's how many times have we watched Piacenza like just waste Romano performances like this? It's like, it don't happen often. You know, these are gifts. If Romano is going off, then you need one of the other guys to get on their horse and going too. Not to mention, like, Romano was here to play. The rest of the team wasn't.
It is unforgivable to me that Andrea Anastasi did not sub out Yoandi Leal.
Oh,
it
man.
Is crazy to me.
7% positive.
That's
passing.
Embarrassing. It's non-functional at any level of volleyball. There's no way you can continue to start. Yeah, I was actually just thinking the same thing. There's no way that you can leave a guy in for 5 sets who is hurting your team that badly in reception without having the best like offensive game of his career. And Leal went 15 for 33 with 6 errors. Like that's okay at best. You have to make a change there. You have to make a change there. Or at least bring in Robert Andrinja to pass sometimes, or bring in Francesco Recine to like, if Leal's having a rough trip through the back row, like bring it, just do something. Do something. Because you're right. They had a good Yuri Romano game, which those don't come around
seriously, if Romano starts heating up and you start seeing that, like, oh shit, like he's starting to get going.
And you don't need Leal's arm. You don't need it.
You don't get either Andringa or Recine, whichever one can pass better, and they're going to score maybe 6-7 for you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What were the middle numbers in this one? Like we said, Robert Landy 7 for 14, not fantastic.
Kineski 8 for 12 with 2 blocks. He was just average. Both Milano middles substantially outplayed both Piacenza middles. I mean, Loser with his brand new haircut and all with the frosted tips. I don't know if I agree with that choice. He had 13, 7 for 10 attacking, 4 blocks, 2 aces, and Vitelli has had himself a hell of a series serving the ball. So
but he was also 5 for 7, right? So like you're seeing that efficiency from Milano. Poro's doing a really good job at just kind of teasing the middle. He doesn't go to it too much, but when he goes to it when it matters, and when it just as Piacenza's blockers and their middle stop forgetting about the middle, Poro's just like, gonna pop it over to Loser. Gonna hit a little pop and pull. No one's gonna be there. Bounce a ball, gets the crowd going. Boom, we're back into it, and it just opens things up for the rest of the offense. Because even Matej Kaczynski wasn't fantastic in this one. Then Melgarejo was actually pretty good coming in.
He's really good
off the bench, 8 for 14. Once again, all I was seeing in the chat from the Discord was that he was bad. And then I go and see these stats and watch a little bit of the game, and I was like, I thought he was pretty good. But you know what? I guess Ronnie has high hopes for the birthday boy Miguel Lopez.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, the heck of a fight back effort by Milano in front of their home crowd. It was very fun to watch, and they should feel pretty darn good about themselves. If Piazza's going to do a good coaching job here, here's what I would be telling his team in his classic intense Italian fashion. If you see that body language, like you mentioned earlier, Everett, on Piacenza's side, if you see the slightest bit of mopiness, you need to step on their throats.
Yep. You just jump on it. You start chirping. You start talking.
Yep, absolutely.
You start peeking. You go at Prizal. You go at Prizal and Leal. Those are going to be the two guys that you go at, especially Leal. Yeah, I absolutely think so. Like it's yeah. But like Rob, let's remember too that like this is this isn't unfamiliar territory for Milano. Like, remember, they were down 2-1 last year against Perugia. They were down 2-0 last year against Perugia, and they found a way to come back against arguably a better team. Like, I think we're in for two really banging matches on Wednesday. Like,
unfortunately, they're at the exact same time.
This is exactly what I want to talk about. Like, Rob, when I say that Poland is stepping ahead of Italy, not only because their players are better, and I fully am prepared to say that, but because they have stepped into the 21st century.
Dude, even Gianpaolo Madei, who's the Italian guy with the bald, weird-shaped head that coaches at Resovia, he just did an interview this week saying that exact thing. He's like, the Italian league is not doing a good enough job. There was such a long period of time there where Italy was the model after which everybody else in the world built their volleyball leagues and their volleyball culture. And now he's saying that Italy starts needing to take pages out of Poland's book, and the media and the TV is a big part of that.
Not only Poland, but on the men's side, you have Japan coming, and we haven't even fully talked about the implications of what's happening over there. And like, I've got a video, or I've got something written up for that, because like, it's interesting. Like right now, like we are seeing the same things happening right now in Japanese volleyball that happened to go in 30 years ago in Japanese soccer, and Japanese soccer is higher than it's ever been. So you're going to take Japanese volleyball that's already one of the top 10 teams in the world and take it maybe further. Like, that's going to be scary. And I think right now Italy is going to be the big ones, and where they're losing out is this media side of things, is the professionalism of everything. Right? Like Dustin Watton made a post about the Plus Liga a few years ago when he started out a bit. That was like a third of all the games were on TV. Like, it was so hard to watch. Now, a few years down the road, every single game,
100% of their games.
And not only that, they have the control to, like, when if one game is in the fifth, the other game isn't starting. It doesn't matter if they're on two opposite sides of the country, which is completely wild. And I absolutely love it. So yeah, Italy is going to be, thank God Micheletto and Lavia and Spertoli and Gianelli and all these guys are young, because like, I don't know how much longer Italy is going to be at the top of their game.
Just the thinking about, you have two do or die 5th game in a best of 5 series, quarterfinal playoff matches. To even consider putting them at the same time is insane. It's unimaginable for like North Americans like us who grew up watching real sports with real broadcasting situations. It's like, it's just unthinkable to me that we're going to have to try and split our attention between two of the most important, well, by so far, the two most important games in the Italian country this year, and they're at the exact same time. It's crazy to me.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
It's just, the SuperLega has poor business leadership, but I mean, we've seen that consistently throughout volleyball. And really only Poland is the only good one to do it. So yeah, that's our breakdown of the of these quarterfinals. I think these are going to be two great matches.
Me too.
I think we're going to have another 2 5-setters, so should be good.
Let's take a quick break before we talk about the women's side to tell the people about a couple things. The first is Everett's trusty 9x9 squared sweatshirt and where you can get it.
Absolutely. Head over to thatvolleyballstore.com. and use the code SPICY to get 15% off of this order and everything on your order, really. No Purdue Boilermaker merch there. We haven't been able to get the license. Big shout out to Canadian boy Zach Eady for leading your Boilermakers through the first weekend of the NCAA March Madness. But
Thank you.
You guys should get into some of our own March Madness and use the code SPICY for 15% off.
I like that. Well done. Yeah, it's almost national team season. People are going to start going to events, especially if you are within like literally a 6-hour radius of Ottawa, Canada. We expect to see you there, and you better be wearing some
more than that. Well, we've met people from all over Ottawa.
We have
in Ottawa, like that, like absolutely love that.
Yeah, we're not kidding about. We expect many of you to be there. We also expect many of you to participate in our favorite segment, and that, of course, is to try and find Daddy Stankovic. God, he's just the best. Just look at him. We love this man, and we hide him somewhere in every show. Last week, he was celebrating a U Sports National Championship. There he is, up on top. Which one of Alberta's middles is that again? Where's 3?
I think that's Graydon Weeb.
Oh, I'm not sure. Is Johnstone the name of one of the guys? I think that might be him.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it is Billy Johnstone. You're right. Billy Johnstone is number 3.
Whoever it is, that he got a facelift on last week's show, and a couple of you found Daddy, because when you find him, all you have to do is comment the timestamp of where you find him. And Matt Buffum found him. He said, Big Daddy playing middle for Alberta. Somebody else, LMKHD, said Alberta Golden Daddies. So love it.
Alberta Golden Daddies.
Fantastic.
Let's go. That's another name. Oh my goodness.
Fantastic.
If I could broadcast them and call them the Alberta Golden Daddies, oh my goodness. I don't know if Terry would ever talk to me again. I don't know if it would happen. So far I've called them the Golden Pandas, which is hilarious, and the Thunder Bears. So the Alberta Golden Daddies would be the peak. The absolute peak.
Well, yeah, keep that one in the memory banks. Thank you all for participating in our Where's Daddy segment. Make sure you keep an eye out for where he is in this show, and if and when you find him, don't comment in the live chat. You got to wait until the show's over. Find the timestamp and comment it in the main YouTube comment section, and we'll give you a shout out in next week's show. Golden Daddies. I really like that one a lot.
Golden Daddies.
All right. Speaking of Italian playoffs, it's time for the playoffs in the LegaVolley Femminile. We haven't covered this league as much down the stretch of the season because it wasn't nearly as dramatic. There are really no surprises here in the playoff bracket. Number 1, Conegliano, who finished the season undefeated, will take on number 8 Roma. Number 4 Novara takes on number 5 Chieri. Number 2 Scandicci takes on number 7 Valafolia, and number 3 Malonza takes on number 6 Pinerolo. This is pretty darn similar to the bracket that we saw for the women's Coppa Italia, but these in the quarters are best of 3 match series, not best of 5 like the men, because they've got catching up to do in the schedule. Like you alluded to it earlier, though, Everett, Chieri Novara is the only one I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, I mean, even in that series, there's still like an 8-point separation between the two teams. But like after that, like Pinerolo, Valfolia, and Rome all had 37 points this year. So that is like 12 wins. All 3 of those teams were under 500, let's say. So, and they're making the playoffs. So, yeah, just not the same level of competition, let's say, in the LegaVolley Femminile as we see on the men's side, 1 through 8. So I'll keep a bit of an eye, like especially when Chieri and Novara is going down. Like that is going to be a really interesting season. I've loved watching Chieri this year. Is it Avery Skinner who's playing for Chieri?
Avery Skinner is on Chieri.
Yeah. And Grabelna, and that team is just good all around. So love to watch them. But other than that, can't say I have much interest in watching any of the series, to be perfectly honest.
Me neither. Yeah, they all start on Wednesday. Yeah, I expect them all to be pretty lopsided for those top 3 teams, Conegliano, Scandicci, Malonza, as we expect. But Chieri did beat Novara in that one match in the Coppa Italia quarterfinal. So that should be a good series. I mean, Chieri won the CEV Cup, Novara won the CEV Challenge Cup. I expect that one to be competitive, but Another thing I wanted to talk about here, of course, is the relegation picture. It got actually real
You love a
interesting.
relegation, right?
Got real interesting. We've known Trentino and their women's team, coached by the stooge that is Davide Mazzanti. We knew that they were going to get relegated for weeks now, but it really came down to the wire for the second relegation spot, and it was going to be between Bergamo and Cuneo. So take a look at the scores from this weekend. Bergamo had Scandicci. Tough matchup. It was in it was in Bergamo, but Scandicci was already locked into the second seed, and there wasn't really anything they could do. Same with Malonza, who was in third and like didn't really have anything to like. Obviously, they didn't put up a good fight. They lost to Valafolia in a sweep, and nobody cared, so they didn't have much to play for. But Cuneo was the other team in the picture. They had to play Firenze, who really also had nothing to play for. And Cuneo, to keep their season alive, dropped that match in 4 and couldn't even get a point out of it. So there was an amazing scene, Everett. I don't know if you saw this clip, but
I haven't seen the clip.
Oh my goodness. It was one of the coolest things in volleyball, one of the most unique things in volleyball I've ever seen. Bergamo at home against Scandicci. It was like the second or third point of the 5th set. In the middle of a point, the ball was in the air, and everybody on Bergamo just stopped playing because the whole arena saw posted that Cuneo lost in 4.
Yo, someone has to send. Did someone post to the Discord or?
It was on Bergamo's Instagram. It was on the LegaVolley Femminile Instagram. Somebody sent it to me with English commentary, and Dave Rogers was doing the game, and he absolutely nailed the call. He knew exactly what was on the line. He knew exactly the situation. He knew exactly why the whole arena just stopped what they were doing because the score got posted that Cuneo lost. It was the beginning of the 5th set. Bergamo had already clinched a point, and everybody in the gym and shortly after the players knew that they had survived. And it was seriously, it was crazy. The ball was literally in the air, and Bergamo just like caught the ball, dropped it, and started celebrating. And they called the timeout, and they started celebrating. They had an amazing. It was an amazing moment, so unique because they knew.
I'm watching it right now.
They just caught the ball while it was literally in the middle of a point because they learned at that moment that they were not going to get relegated. It was amazing to see how much it meant to that team. Doing it at home and like look at the sign Grazie with the A and the 1 staying in A1. Like it was such a cool thing that you only get. It was really spectacular. Something that you only get in European sports when relegation is the consequence for sucking. And it meant a lot to Bergamo, who's like a proud franchise. They obviously went through a lot this year. They were not good, but just to stay alive by that 1 point clearly meant so much to them. It was just a fascinating scene to watch. And again, huge credit to Dave Rogers on the call for being the one person like aware of what's going on in the volleyball world who was able to do that moment justice. It was great. He did a fantastic job.
All right, love it. You'll have to send me the English one because I've only found the Italian one.
Yeah,
but
someone
they just left it, you know. I mean, and like when you look at this Bergamo team, like this is a team that finished in the playoffs last year,
right?
Like this was they were 7th last year, and like I'm trying to look when was the last time that they weren't in A1.
I don't know. They've been a mainstay for as far as I can remember.
Dude, they won the Italian Cup in 2016.
See, yeah, like that. Yeah. That's not a franchise that was interested in dropping down to the A2.
No, this used to be a Champions League team, like a team that won. Yeah, I mean we're going back into the 2010s now, and they were in the 2000s. Yeah, this is as long as their volley box goes back, they were in A1.
Yeah, so cool moment. Just reminds me of why relegation and the system over in Europe is so awesome, and I love it so much. And like, I feel bad for Cuneo, but they should have been better. They had a chance.
Be better.
Be better.
I don't feel bad.
Like you had a match against a team that wasn't really playing for anything, in match number 26 of the year, and you failed to take a point from them, and now you get relegated. Like it's nobody's fault but their own. And then Trentino just sucks. We don't need to talk about them at all. But yeah, fun stuff. Relegation pictures always get me going. Speaking of relegation pictures, Charny Rodham got 3 points today in the Plus Liga.
Okay, yeah, we need to talk about the Plus Liga now.
Oh, yeah.
You and I just watched a fantastic match between Zaksa and Warszawa that went limit. Warszawa got the reverse sweep, but Charny Rodham with the 3-dong on Katowice. Lubin got a win earlier in the week that made them jump. They beat Norvid, which made them jump over Cuprum. But now there's a logjam there with Radom. Like, I thought they were down and out. They got the 3-dong on Katowice. Melionats with 13 points. You love to see it. And they're still alive. I mean, they've got like Skra, Lviv, and Cuprum left. And Katowice also has Cuprum left, so there's some potential there. But that relegation race in Poland is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But I'd rather talk about the top of the table, Rob.
Agreed.
Because if we go, the match that we just watched, Zaxa losing in the reverse sweep, was the first time that we've seen Alexander Slivka start and play an entire match, and now they went up 2-0. They had the lead late up, like Pashitsky went on. He blew a terrible chance on a free ball situation for them to take a 2-point lead.
That hurt.
Late in this set. He redeemed himself with a couple of really good serves after that. But then David Smith foot fault kind of crushed their dreams of getting to win that. If they were able to pull that one off in 3, Rob, they would have jumped up to 7th.
Right?
They would have been ahead of Stalnissa and ahead of Olsztyn. They would have bumped Olsztyn out. Olsztyn, of course, lost in a 3-2 and a 5 to Lublin earlier this week as well. So there was so much going on. But Zaxa, at the end of the year, gets their captain back, arguably their best player, arguably one of the top 5 outside hitters in the world. And suddenly that gets so dangerous for all of the top teams. Like, I think Warszawa kind of clued in the middle of this, of like kind of looking at things, because they're in number 2. If Zaxa had won that game and popped up into 7th, that would have been their matchup.
That would have been a nightmare of a first round matchup, especially because the Plus Ligas condensed their playoffs this year to only be like Champions League style series across the board. It would have been insane. And yeah, Zaxa being up 2-0, just like looking at them playing that match with Slivka back, that was their same starting lineup that won the Champions League last year.
Yeah. That was,
and it for a moment there, they looked scary. They looked good. They looked locked in. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but the X factor of all people was Linus Weber. Came off the bench and dropped 19 points on 56% efficiency. And served an ace to win that third set 25-23, like a clean, untouched 1-1 ace, which was sick. This was a fantastic game of volleyball. And Zaxa's got to be kicking themselves, because the fact that they went up 2-0 and only came away from that with a point and couldn't keep pace with Olsztyn and who's in 7th, Nissa. Yeah, Nissa beat Gdansk and got 3 points from him earlier in the week. So that was a massive missed chance for Zaxa, and maybe a bullet dodge for Warszawa, like you said.
Big bullet dodge for Warszawa. I mean, I was a little bit wrong. The win in 2 is what pushed them into 2nd place, just above Zawiercie. They were just below them with the game at hand before this match. So had they won in 3, Warszawa would have been in 2nd, and Zawiercie, or in 3rd, and Zawiercie would have been in 2nd. But still, like right now, if you're any of the top teams, any of those top 4 teams, you're hoping and praying. And you're hoping and praying that Zaxa doesn't even get to the playoffs.
Absolutely.
No one, not one of those teams wants to play Zaxa in a 2-game face-off.
Oh, no.
In this situation.
Not with
they would absolutely, I think they would absolutely want them to play them in a longer series, in a 5-game series. And I think that's where we've seen, that's why we've seen JW win 2 of the past 3 championships, right? For Zaxa, because it's in a longer series. You have that chance to do those matchups, much as like we're seeing in the Italian league right now. But
I think the conditioning is a big factor too, because Slivka in his first game back, that's
exactly it.
He was gassed by the end of that match today, and he was good. Like, he had 37% efficiency, he dropped 20 points. He looked mostly like himself, but after a couple points that he scored, after these long rallies, he's like got his hands on his knees trying to catch his breath. He went down with a cramp at one point. Like, the long series thing and getting rid of them this particular season couldn't have worked out better in Zaxa's favor. So you're absolutely right. Everybody else in the league is just hoping and praying that team doesn't make the playoffs. And now everybody in the league having 3 matches left, it's going to get real interesting. Zaxa has Suwałki, who actually looked very good this week. They took 2 sets from JSW. Then they have Zavierce, and then they have JSW themselves. So if Zaxa is gonna get in, they're gonna earn it, man. And this, like, up 2-0 today, and only coming away with 1 point from that game. Who knows how significant that's going to be in 2 weeks or so when the season's over.
It could, like, that could be when we're looking at, like, if they don't make the playoffs, it might.
We're gonna look back. We're gonna look back to today for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, because this is the first time that they had their full team back, and it was there for them. It was. But yeah, when you look at some of the Suwałki, Zawiercie, and JW to finish off the year is not.
It's a tough stretch, man.
Is not easy. I mean, it isn't easy for any of the teams ahead of them, though, right? Like as well either. With Nysa has been playing Warszawa, Suwałki, Zawiercie, and then Olsztyn playing Gdansk, Warszawa, and Suwałki. Like it's going to be hard for all of them. Yeah,
all tough roads for those teams. Yeah, 7, 8, and 9 separated by 1 point. Resovia is the only team that it's really not going to get interesting for them at all. They're pretty much locked in. Well, they're in the playoffs for sure. They can't get third. They just don't really want to get caught by Lublin in 5th. But Gdansk needs another point or two to be safe. Lublin needs another point or two to be safe. And then obviously you got those 3 teams at the very bottom, Kuprum, Lublin, Katowice, and Czarny Radom, who I think all 3 play each other, other than Katowice playing Radom today. That's going to get real interesting at the bottom. It's going to get real interesting for 7, 8, and 9. And Zax is a team that everybody in anywhere within Polish borders has got their eye on for sure right now.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's really too bad that they've lost their past 3 because they should have had a win today. Like they really should have. It was there for them. But some other results from this weekend. It was a weird weekend around the Plus Liga. We mentioned Nysa getting a 3-1 over Gdansk. Lviv, a 3-1 win over Resovia. And I like how you put in the notes just LOL.
LOL.
Like, no other. You didn't say anything else. Just LOL.
That's my reaction to Resovia winning the CV Cup and then promptly losing to a Ukrainian team. That's just funny.
Yeah. Lubin beating Norvid, as we said, 3-2, which is that win right there probably saved themselves from relegation.
Bunch of 5-setters this weekend, man.
Lublin beating Olsztyn, and then JSW, another 5-setter, going to 5 against Suwałki. So
love it.
Just so much parity in the Plus Liga as we're gearing up for the playoffs. And once again, I think we're being robbed by not getting a full 5-game series.
Yeah, I think the Plus Liga is realizing that they've made a mistake in the last couple of years by allowing too many teams in. 16 teams is too many. 30 regular season matches is way too many, and their playoff format is suffering for it. So I think they have a plan to get back to 14 teams 2 seasons from now. At least I hope so. That's just going to be good for the league overall. But that's the one thing that I'm really gonna miss this year is those true like deep playoff series that you can really like sink your teeth into how teams are playing each other over a long period of time. Definitely gonna miss that, but it favors some teams more than others, and I think Zaxa, if they can sneak in, is a team that it favors.
Yeah, both, because this is such a returning team from Zaxa, right? They still have such a familiarity with themselves. It's the majority of the Polish national team too, with the 3 outsides and Janusz there. So many factors, but Zaxa getting Szufka back right now, and the fact that it looks like he didn't miss a beat either. Like, he was a little bit tired. I think we need to talk about that one cramping bullshit situation there. And was it in the 4th set where, and it was too bad because they had made he made a phenomenal
dig. Yeah, it was great.
Tracked it down, kicked it up, and they got it over, and he immediately cramps up and then starts waving to the referee. The referee blows it dead. And
why do we do that? Why do we do that in volleyball?
Which is absolutely wild. Like, no, I'm sorry. This is a non-contact sport. He didn't get hit in the head with a ball. He didn't get elbowed or anything. He's cramping. Even if, God forbid, he tears an ACL, you finish the play.
Yeah, I don't understand why are we doing this? Is this the thing? Does everybody do this in Europe where if somebody goes down, the play stops? Like in North America growing up, that was never the case. Like if you go down, like the play continues, right?
No.
Is
Oh,
that
yeah,
the same
for
for
sure.
you?
Oh, in hockey, bud, like
Well, no, I'm not talking about hockey. Volleyball.
Well,
If someone gets hurt in volleyball, does the play stop in Canada?
well, it depends on what. Like if someone gets hit in the head, yes.
Why?
Like if that because
They should have dug the ball.
We're a little bit. Well, they did technically with their face. Right. Like, but we're a little bit more cautious about CTE and head trauma up here than you guys are down.
Well,
in the
you
States.
got hit in the head either way. Why do you stop the point? Why are you punishing the team that made
it doesn't happen?
It
doesn't happen all. It doesn't happen all the time.
No, this. I mean, maybe I'm triggered from that stupid Iranian guy who flopped and cost us a set in VNL a couple summers ago. If I had my way, you would never blow a play dead for an injury. You would play it out. But if you do, that player is done for the set. Sub that
100%.
player out, they're done for the set. That's
Absolutely.
how it would be if I had my
way. At the very least, you have to sub them out now,
right.
and like use a sub.
Right.
Maybe don't use a sub,
which is how it works like in the NFL. In the NFL, if a player stops the clock for being injured, he must come off the field for one play.
Yeah. Yeah. That was garbage.
Yeah.
Like that.
Hell of a match though. Very, very fun match.
Hell of a match. So many changes of leads in that third set and then that fourth set. Just at their best. Kevin Tilley was outstanding in this one. Yeah, remember there was a time when Shalpuk. There was a time when Shalpuk was washed and Kevin Tilley was being called a nepo baby in our server, and they've both been balling out this year. So, yeah, you love that. But
good to see Taylor April out there too, haircut and all. He chopped the flow a little bit.
I don't know if I like it.
I don't know either.
I kind of miss.
I don't know what all these middles are doing, messing with their hairstyles. Like if you guys haven't seen Augustine Loseir's new hair, you got to go see it. I
haven't seen it. He's got like things in the style.
He has legitimate frosted tips.
No.
Oh yeah.
He's coming back. Eh? Fornell had frosted tips for a while.
Friendly reminder: I had frosted tips a couple years ago, but I haven't shown anyone the photo because you haven't given me what I've asked for. You haven't given me Satoshi Tsuiki in dreads next to like Tricycle Man in dreads. You haven't given me that photo, so I haven't shown you me in frosted tips. Hasn't happened yet.
In what world? Sorry, reality check. But in what world was Shalpuk struggling?
He was amazing. Match? What are you talking about?
He was outstanding. He led them in points. He had 22. He went 20 for 35 with an error and got blocked only twice. He had a 49% efficiency with a block and an ace. He did make 6 serving errors, which left the match. But like, you're gonna tell me that he struggled reality check? I think you need a reality check.
Got him. He was bad in reception. That's a good point. All right. Not enough about the Bundesliga. It was a heck of a weekend, and it's going to be a very, very fun race to the finish. The last 3 games of the season. There's basically games every day, which I love. I think they come back on Thursday this week, so that'll be real fun.
Versus Lube.
Yeah, we got some stuff. So I wanted to real quickly just kind of run around all the other European leagues that are just sort of starting the playoffs right now. And one of those is going to be the FINALISTS Ligi in Turkey. So they all played their last regular season matches over this past weekend. Halkbank Ankara is going to be the number 1 seed. They were 25-0 on the year before they got beat by Fenerbache over the weekend. I went and looked into it. Halkbank played the starters. Like it's not like they just punted this game. They just got beat.
Has been a sneaky good team, and it's interesting because they were very, very average against Resovia in the CEV Cup, but they have been
dropped 26 and 4.
Yeah, they've been really, really good in the FINALISTS Ligi this year. Like,
yep. So they're the 2 seed, so they've got home court advantage against Ziraat Bank in that semifinal. And remember, in both the Turkish men's and women's leagues, only 4 teams make the playoffs. So we know the semifinals. I think the semifinals are best of 3 only. Let me look at that. Yeah, so best of 3 match series. Number 1 Halkbank versus number 4 Galatasaray. Then number 2 Fenerbahce versus number 3 Ziraat Bank. I mean, at least 2, maybe 3 matches between Fenerbahce and Ziraat Bank. That like those will be fun games to watch. I think they start this week.
And I mean, like Galatasaray beat Ziraat Bank in their last match, like just a couple days ago on the 23rd. 3-1. I mean, there was no Matt Anderson in for this one. Vincent Dean was actually pretty good. He had 14. But who just? Oh, yeah.
I know,
you know
who
who
Galatasaray has.
you know who's playing for Galatasaray?
I know who Galatasaray has.
Miran Kuyundžić.
Oh yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, he had 17. He had 17 in the win. But also Jan Hadrava.
Gross.
So I mean, with the way that the FINALISTS Ligi playoffs are, with it just goes straight to the semifinals. Like I would watch the FINALISTS Ligi semifinals. Like,
for sure.
Two really good
I
matches.
plan to do so. They start this weekend. I just looked it up, and they usually stream on YouTube at least to some degree.
Yeah.
So. I'm looking forward to that. So that's the FINALISTS Ligi. We've also got the famed Marmara Spike League, formerly known as the LNV. This is the French men's league, featuring the dumbest playoff format in all of volleyball. We pointed this out last year. I absolutely can't stand it. But just to go down the teams, we've got number 1 Chaumont taking on number 8 Paris. We've got number 4 Tours taking on number 5 Montpellier. Number 2 Nantes against number 7 Saint-Nazaire, and number 3 Tourcoing against number 6 Toulouse. I hate this format. It's best of 5 in the quarterfinal. It's best of 3 in the semifinal, and it's 2-match home and away in the final. That makes no sense. No sense, LNV. Figure it out. Why would your series get shorter as the playoffs go on?
I saw someone on TikTok suggest this for like the NBA or NHL, like NHL playoffs, and they got absolutely eviscerated.
And
I was like, this is the dumbest thing. The fact that like you can sink your teeth into a good series in the quarters, and then it gets shorter in the semis,
and then it gets even shorter in the final.
The final. I absolutely hate the home and home scenario. Like you've just taken away first place advantage. You no longer get home court advantage.
Well, I think you do, because last year, who won last year? It must have been Tours, right? Yeah, Tours won last year. Yeah. They beat, I think they might have beaten Chaumont in the final, but Tours was the 1 seed, and they played at home in the second leg. And so they have a slightly modified way that they do a golden set if necessary, which I think last year it was, but still really, really stupid to play best of 5, then best of 3, then best of 2. Like whoever's idea that was needs to be unemployed immediately. So I don't get that at all. But yeah, those are the matchups, and there's a lot of North Americans in the LNV. We've got Joe Worsley and a bunch of Americans on Chaumont. They're the 1 seed. Got a bunch of Americans on Saint-Nazaire, I think. Are there still a bunch of Canadians on a handful of these teams?
Yeah, well, Tourcoing has Riley Barnes, and it's crazy. Like, he's statistically been one of the best left sides in the league. Like, even the big French YouTuber did like a 40-minute like expose on Riley Barnes recently that I watched. That was pretty awesome. So
good for him. Yeah, I hope that he's around for Canada this Olympic summer, because he's got a legit chance to get a roster spot.
I think so too. I think having Riley Barnes would make a big difference to this team, and just having
that outside that group of 4: Stephen Marr, Nick Hogue, Eric Lepke, Riley Barnes,
Gord Barron.
We're
whispering that into reality.
Is that what we're doing?
Come back, Gord. Yeah, that's just my own. That's just my own like thing. Like, Gord, come back just for one summer. Like the idea of potentially being able to like Graham and Gord, you've just had fantastic years. Graham, you were living on the beach in the Canary Islands. Gord, you were balling in Hawkbank with the boys. Like, come back for just one more VNL, and the Olympics.
And they don't even really have to play in that VNL.
No. I mean, maybe a little bit, but yeah, like. So, obviously Montpellier has Danny Demyanenko on it too. Saint-Nazaire is where you've got all the Canadian boys. You got all the North American boys. You got Ensing. Who's the setter there?
Quinn Isaacson. I hear he's going to the Plusliga next year, which would be a cool move.
I've heard that as well. I've heard he's going to play for Norvid. And then George Schnitzer as well plays in the middle for Saint-Nazaire as well. So yeah, lots to see and watch in the Marmara Spike League playoffs.
Yeah, those playoffs start tomorrow. all the quarterfinals all at the exact same time. Figure it out. Also, we have the Bundesliga, the men's Bundesliga. These playoffs have been underway for a while, but they've been completely uninteresting because in the quarterfinal, all 4 quarterfinal series went 2-0 to the higher seeded teams. So now we've got Berlin versus Lüneburg and Gießen versus Friedrichshafen, and those are best of 5 series that start tomorrow. So that's a lot more like it. This is where the Bundesliga gets interesting. They expanded a lot this year. They got a lot more teams in. A lot of those teams were terrible teams added to the Bundesliga this year. But now you get some good teams playing against each other. So I'm hoping they publicize some of those excellent broadcasts a little bit more. I know they do 1 or 2 matches every week for free. Hopefully they continue to do that for the playoffs.
Yeah,
it starts tomorrow, I think. Yeah,
that would be great to see, because I think like Berlin and Lüneburg have been going at it all year, and Lüneburg has knocked off like a couple of giants in a few years, and I think that would be a really interesting series. And then I've got some personal reasons to watch Gießen against Friedrichshafen. A couple of Canadians in that one. Jackson Young having a pretty good year out of Nipissing University, having a pretty good year for Friedrichshafen coming off the bench. But then my good old mate Jory Mantha having an absolute career year and racking up the MVPs and looking good doing it with a mustache over for Gießen. So
Jory's the man.
Have you met Jory before?
Yeah, I have. He's great.
Oh, yeah. I know he goes to play like a lot of American tournaments and stuff. And like, oh man, these stories I have of playing club volleyball with Jory Mantha was like kind of incredible. So, and it's my one like link to, like, I was coaching this weekend. Like I coached adults, and they're like, "Were you good in your club days?" I was like, "I was on good teams." And I could like name drop Jory, and like, yeah, he's in the Bundesliga. He's doing pretty good, racking up MVPs. So that's who did you play with in club, Rob? Anyone good?
No, not really. Like my club team, my 17s and 18s years were not very good, but there were guys from my area who I played against that ended up being extremely good. That's not nearly as fun though.
Yeah, I mean, like we got second in the province in my 18 year. We were pretty damn good. Just don't know how we did it.
I was much better in college. I'll put it that way.
I played like actual college volleyball.
Oh yeah,
not club.
My teams would have stomped yours. That would have been really fun.
Not even close.
Stomped.
Not even close.
I agree. No, I agree. Not even close.
We would have 3-donged you so easily.
I agree. It would not even.
We were a legitimate college program, that like trained and stuff like that.
So yeah, we had like 2 overseas pros from a college club team and like 4 like VLA tier 1 players that are rock solid.
Right. We'll have to rip it up sometime. We'll get my.
I've already stomped you in short court. Like that, these haven't been contests. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna reprise that again this summer. Considering
Stomp is a real stretch for a game that was like neck and neck. A and then B, like I haven't been playing for years. You
Whose
still regularly
fault is
play.
that?
Well, this is what I'm saying is that I haven't been playing. Like I hadn't touched a ball. Well, now I'm back in the scene a little bit. I've been coaching. I've been around it. So we'll see. We'll see once Vienna comes around.
I suppose we will. Last but not least, the Pro Volleyball Federation. I will be honest with you all. I haven't watched it all this past week. I know there weren't as many games. I think there were only like 4 games since the last show that we did. One of them was pretty good. Well, a couple of them were good. Columbus beating Atlanta was good. They beat him 3-1, and with the Tori Dilfer effect of like her setting for Columbus against her former team. Also, I dug into that more. That was actually an official trade. It was Atlanta traded her to Columbus for 2 first-round picks. I
love that. I love bringing in the North American style.
I like it too. Now picks, like a first-round pick in the PVF is nowhere near as valuable as like a first-round pick in like the major sports, where like a first-round pick in the NFL, the NHL, or the NBA are like among the most valuable assets in all of sports. So it's definitely not like that here, but I absolutely love the fact that you can trade picks for a player. I think that's great. So I have good things to say about that, but otherwise I haven't really been I haven't been a very dedicated PVF fan the last week or so.
So, but Columbus, and I'll admit I haven't been either. I have a new job that has me working nights again, so it's more difficult to watch some of these games. But Columbus has made some pretty big moves, bringing in Tori Dilfer, but they also brought in Michelle Barch-Hackley out of retirement,
Really?
and Nikoleta Perovic, who used to play professionally in Europe as well. Mostly
Michelle
in, like,
Barch-Hackley, no
Michelle
way.
Barch-Hackley is coming off. She's been coaching with Ohio State recently as an assistant coach.
So
for the
she's been
women's
in
Buckeyes.
Columbus.
So
Okay.
she's been in Columbus, and now she's moonlighting as well as a Columbus Fury player. Like Columbus is a team that really started the year off weak, really poorly, and they've been picking it up. But you add Tori Dilfer, you add Michelle Barch-Hackley, and then as Asia O'Neil becomes more and more healthy too, that's a team that could be really no one saw coming at all down the stretch. So
Cool. I like that.
Be
I like mid-season player movement. I like trades.
Me
I
too.
like free agent acquisitions. All that stuff is good for sports products.
Yeah, 100%. I like if we're gonna have a North American style league, I want North American style trades.
100%.
The only thing is that the fact that they didn't announce it. Like, come on, PVF. PVF. You guys are in a battle here. Being first isn't good enough. You need to be
Correct.
first, and you need to be good, right? The other guys are signing way better talent than you. Let's be honest, like they are. They're doing a much better job at signing bigger names within the sport. So what's gonna happen when they start coming in the fall? Like, you guys need to do a better job at promoting this game on the digital side. It's not just good enough to be there and to be first.
Agreed. Well said. All right. That's a show. That's a show. Very good show. We had a lot of good stuff. The last couple of weeks. We've got a lot of time to break down the super finals. That's in like 6 weeks. So we're definitely going to focus on some of the domestic playoffs. Yeah, big day Wednesday with the Italian men's and women's playoffs. A lot of playoffs starting this week or this weekend, and all good stuff. So make sure you join the Volleyball Source Discord, where we have lots of resources for you just to connect you with these games, figure out how to watch and follow them, and just talk to other people that are also watching them. We've got it's the best online volleyball chat community in the world. So get in there.
Let's double check where we're at with the numbers right now.
Oh yeah. How many bodies are in that?
1840.
Wow. Getting close to 2,000. That's incredible. So we appreciate you all for being in the Discord and for watching this show, and we will see y'all next week.
À la prochaine. Goodbye.